Hello everybody and welcome to Spoiler Warning featuring myself, Tom, Colohue, and we have plenty of wrestling news to jump into today. We're going to be talking the impending return of Randy Orton. Bianca Belair versus Charlotte Flair is reportedly off the WrestleMania card despite the fact it's been planned since essentially this time last year. Charlotte Flair has a new opponent per the Wrestling Observer, who you might be surprised by. We have Dave Meltzer versus The Rock again, but there is a little bit of Pat McAfee involved in this. It does sort of change things and how they might occur. NXT on the up in ratings and with plans for more from the main roster. Logan Paul in a deal that he individually has with Saudi Arabia that will likely put him on the card again this year. A little bit on Gunter and Rhea Ripley and reception to their work backstage. Jey Uso and Cody Rhodes, their future as a team. Jade Cargill and her potential for War Games. Seth Rollins having the backup World Championship. The absolutely stunning news of what the Crown Jewel main event is going to be. You want to hold tight for this one because I was not ready. And finally, the video that will be coming out on Sunday. The WWE are using the name of CM Punk to sell tickets to Survivor Series. They are in fact hinting, I've had that confirmed, but it's not because it's coming back. It's quite genius, it really is quite genius. So we are of course jumping straight in with plenty of news. We will be answering your questions as they come in as well. We already have 44 people watching and 16 likes. 16 more gets us to the 32 record that we have. So be sure to hit that thumbs up and let's break records today like the channel has been doing for the last few days. I can confirm by the by, we did break a new record yesterday. We broke more than 10,000 views in a single day. More than 10,000 views in a single day. Huge thank you to all of you for your constant support. Also, a big thank you to Daz Reynolds, who's renewed his channel supporter membership. Thank you very kindly for that. Always appreciate it. A big hello to everyone on the YouTube side. Joe, Daniela, Brad, Roger, Zane, Mick, Ray, LF, Bailey, Brad, Raymond, Adam, Leon, King Azza, and Joey as well, and of course yourself, Daz. Spider Boss is also on the Twitch side. If you are watching on the Twitch side, please do consider popping over to the YouTube as well, where we do continue to grow with those numbers. We'll be answering as many questions as we can. We will get to the news as soon as we hit the latest 10 past, so let's jump into it. Spider Boss says, any plans for the IC title? More on that shortly. Says, when do you think we could see Jade Cargill's in-ring debut in WWE? More on that shortly. Says, I didn't get it. So Jey Uso and Cody Rhodes win the tag team titles only to lose in 9 days. More on that shortly. Says, sometimes I think the Judgment Day needs some tension. It's all about them. More on that shortly. So yeah, quite a lot of more on that shortly. On the YouTube side, a lot of love for the Red Panda. Thank you kindly. King Azza says, do you think it's going to be Jade versus the Queen at WrestleMania 40? More on that shortly. Joey says, hey Tom, is it true Ari Emanuel took Vince out of creative? Yes and no. Primarily, Vince has not been in creative for a very long time, so it's very debatable as to whether or not you would consider that to be true. Spider-Boss says, I saw a short on IG from SRS, and SRS talked about maybe Nick Khan was behind the Vince McMahon leak. I find that unlikely and find it very unlikely that would be reported. Dad says, anything announced for SmackDown regarding Roman? Not at this point in time, but you don't really need to anymore when it comes to Roman. He announces himself. Q43 says, hello Tom, according to Bet Online AG, Nia Jax and Raquel Rodriguez are the betting favourites to win the Women's Royal Rumble. I find that very, very unlikely. Sai says, hi all and congrats Tom on 10k views. Thank you Sai, welcome to the show. Brad says, hell yes Tom, keep up the good work. NYC says, hi, welcome. Thank you Brad. 23 Fresh said, could Endeavour bring back ECW or WCW? Yes. Will they? No. Khalid says, hey Tom mate, good to see you. Thank you for that and welcome Khalid. Ricky says, hi Tom, happy Friday, good to see you buddy, welcome. Razar says, hi Tom, hello. Joey says, do you still think the CM Punk news is fake? Which news is that, Joey? Which news is that? We're on 5 past, we're on 28 likes, 5 break the record, 4 equal it. Can we get there before we go into more news? Spiderboss says, ringside news came up this week of awful clickbait about Mercedes money after that video of Mercedes dealing with an annoying fan. That is sort of what they do. They are the clickbait extraordinaires. Kelly says, do you think War Games will be announced? Yes, because otherwise it can't happen. Steve says, do you feel like CM Punk's name has more value and draw power than CM Punk the person? More on that later. Chris says, good evening, Tom. Welcome, Chris. How you doing? Jordan says, a very good evening to you, Tom. Welcome, Jordan. Nice to see you. OLE is here saying, hello, Tom. OLA to yourselves. NYC says, LA Knight will face Roman Reigns at WWE Crown Jewel House. Which I imagine you mean Crown Jewel itself. First reported by the LA Times, apparently. King Azza says, did Cody win the tags because they wanted to do stare down with Roman? More on that later. Daniel says, yo, welcome, Daniel. Eric says, good evening, Tom. Welcome to More on That More on That Shortly warning. I like it. We might need to change the name. Eric says, hello to More of That Shortly. Ricky says, sorry I've not been around. My mum got ill and ended up in the hospital. You do not need to be sorry for that. If you're having some issues at home, then that's not really a situation where I want you here. Your life comes first, mate, basically. Okay? We're happy when you're here. We're not happy when you're not. You're welcome here whenever you want to be. Jason says, greetings, Tom and chat. Happy Friday and well wishes to you all. Thank you, Jason. I appreciate that. I always like when someone says hi to everyone. Adam says, hey, Tom, probably won't happen, but I can see Bronson Reed versus Braun Strowman at WrestleMania 40. I don't think either of them are big enough names to get a singles match for WrestleMania. 23 Fresh says, William Regal NXT GM in 2024. I don't think they need a GM at this point in time. And Spiderboss says, do you think NXT should rely more on their roster, or it's okay for NXT to use main roster talent? More on that shortly. Happens a lot that I say that is true. I can't argue. Eddie says, anything on when Nick Aldis will debut in ring? Nope, but the only person so far who has reported that he will debut in ring has been myself. Brad says, ringside news, we are the clickbait of all wrestling news. Pete says, howdy doody diddly dandy to you all. Hope you all are well. Very proud. Pardon me. Very proud of myself that I was able to read all that. Read it off as smoothly as I did. And Brad says, sends his well wishes to Ricky. Thank you, Brad. Let's get to our first piece of news, and that is the news of Randy Orton. And with this piece of news, I want to ask you a question before we get started. Where do you want to see Randy Orton when he returns? What brand? What feud? Okay? What brand? And what feud? So firstly, Randy Orton is due to return to the WWE before Survivor Series. This was the report by Fightful Select behind their paywall. I've been reporting for a little while now that he was going to be returning around this time. Firstly, in February, I reported that he'd be back after SummerSlam and not a moment before. Funny when you see how many people reported to be back at Money in the Bank. But he has now got the all clear to return. We are going to be seeing him gracing our screens once again, and Big E is very close to being cleared as well. The idea seems to be to get Randy Orton back in play before Survivor Series because he is going to feature on that pay-per-view. So there are a couple of different possibilities lined up. Firstly, I want to gauge your reaction to what I'm about to say next. Randy Orton War Games. Just going to leave that there for a moment to see what reaction I get. Randy Orton War Games. Just going to throw that out there. We have quite a few. King Azza says Raw and against Cody. NYC says Randy putting over younger talent on Raw. Leon says Raw, anyone other than Judgment Day. Brad suggests SmackDown and Bobby Lashley. Adam suggests SmackDown and Karrion Kross. Khalid wants him to return to SmackDown as a heel. Daniela also says hopefully SmackDown or Raw, and first feud versus Gunther or the World Heavyweight Champion, which will be Seth. The other Mike says want to see him on Raw, first feud to be with Gunther. As regards War Games, Brad says he likes it. Daniela wants Randy to be in War Games so much. Eric is suggesting SmackDown against Roman. Brad is saying Randy versus Solo Sikoa. Zane wants Randy in NXT. And Backwards wants a heel Randy Orton in War Games. So, there's a few different things worth mentioning here. Firstly, there are a number of people that Randy Orton wants to work with, and there's a number of people that Randy Orton wants... the Triple H wants Randy Orton to work with. Randy Orton versus Cody Rhodes has been on the agenda for a while, and creative plans do sort of demand that in the near future. There's a possibility, for example, of Randy Orton getting directly involved in the tag team of Jey Uso and Cody Rhodes. However, there is also a setup lined up for Seth Rollins versus Randy Orton, that being part of Randy's return, immediately going up against the World Heavyweight Champion before going back to Gen Pop. Raw seems most likely, based on the situation that they have there, he is likely to return as a face. He wants to wrestle Gunther. Randy Orton is apparently a big fan of Gunther and he's very excited to get in the ring with the current IC champion. He doesn't even necessarily want to win the match. He wants to wrestle people who come through NXT. He's got a long-standing interest in wrestling wrestlers such as Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano. He wants to wrestle Bronson Reed at some point in the near future. Gunther is definitely on the agenda. Randy Orton returning soon, hopefully in time for Survivor Series. He has now been cleared. They're just waiting for the right storyline to get him involved. He wants to wrestle Gunther. The other names such as Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins have been mentioned by the actual creative team. Joey says, do you see them doing Jade Cargill versus Becky for the NXT Women's title at some point? Yes. Razar says, I have some questions, but I feel like you'll get to them in the news, hopefully so. Chris says, heard a story from What Culture that Impact is interested in signing Punk. Is there any truth to that? That's definitely not from What Culture. What I will say is that CM Punk was at Impact, and Impact are interested in signing Punk. I'm confident that that is not from What Culture. They do not report exclusives. Roger says, will we be watching Impact Wrestling Bound for Glory? Nope. I don't watch Impact Wrestling. I don't have enough time. Spider-Boss says, Adam Cole segments with Roderick Strong keep getting funnier. Interesting. I've seen a lot about them jumping the shark. Spider-Boss says, I'd love to see Randy Orton on Raw. One, because it's a credible rival for Seth Rollins. And second, because I want to see Rhea Ripley getting an RKO. Another name I've mentioned, and I'm glad you brought that up, Spider-Boss. Another one that Randy Orton wants to work with. This won't surprise anyone. Dominic Mysterio. And let's be fair, I think that's one we all want to see. Randy Orton versus Dominic Mysterio. Do you want to see it? Eddie says, last Monday I wasn't here. When I ask if you have anything on new signs or returns, when I have something, Eddie, I report it. And I'm just now scrolling through what I've already read out. King Azza says, bad idea for War Games, which is one of the reasons I just returned from a major back injury, and it's Randy Orton. He'll start throwing himself about. Khalid says, I like it, but hopefully he teams up with Cody Rhodes' team. Brad wants Randy versus Seth. Chris wouldn't mind Randy versus Cody. Brad says Randy and Seth have history, which they really do. NYC says, last member of Evolution have a match with Ric Flair. Nope. 23 Fresh says, will never bring in Vince Russo. No, why would they do that? There is absolutely no reason that would ever happen. Steve says, oh God, Orton versus Gunther. Brad says, that's interesting. I love hearing this. Backward saying, oh man, Orton versus Gunther. Raymond saying Randy in War Games scares me a little, which I agree with. Brad wants Randy versus Roman, which I think is sort of a losing battle immediately. Steve says, can Orton survive Gunther? Yes, much like everyone survives Gunther. They just change forever. Eric says, I really hope they keep Liv out till the Rumble. That seems likely at this point in time. There are no plans for Liv Morgan, to my knowledge, from creative. Khalid says, I guess a lot of people will be getting RKOs out of nowhere. Roger says, I just want to see the three most dangerous letters RKO. Joey says, do you see Randy feuding with Roman once he returns to pick up their storyline from last year? There was a plan from last year at SummerSlam, which ended up being John Cena versus Roman Reigns. I believe it ended up being that. It wasn't last year. Last year was Brock Lesnar instead. There was a plan for Randy Orton versus Roman Reigns at SummerSlam. Eric says, I feel sorry for Randy Orton. His soul's about to escape his body by way of Gunther's chop. Bailey says, question, is this essentially the same creative team now as it was under Vince? Is it as simple as Triple H is allowing creative storylines to air when Vince tore up the scripts instead? No, it's a very similar creative team, but what I will say is that Triple H is known to tear up the script as often as Vince, just not as late in the day. 23 Fresh says, how can they improve Raw? Randy Orton would be a very, very good start. Chris says, they on the video said they have a source that exclusively told them, but I'm taking that with a grain of salt. Thank you, Chris. I appreciate the clarification there. That's interesting that they're going into the exclusives game. See how that goes. Eric says, if they didn't cut Riddle, do you think they would have done RK Bro? Yes. Eddie says, last Monday I wasn't here when I asked you. I've already read that one. Brad says, it could be money. Eric says, Dom's about to eat on RKO. No, Zane, I'm drinking Fanta Orange. Very close, very close. Khalid wants Randy Orton to win the North American Championship. WrestleBuzz, welcome. Says Randy wants Gunter, Bronson, Dom, so he's going to Raw. I find Raw much more likely, yes. Adam Mendez, very, very excited about this. LFUK says Randy versus Roman would be money. It would, but it wouldn't necessarily be what they're planning going forwards. The dude says Dom is everyone, the kid is money. Steve says Punk is a name, value, impact, needs to get more attention. Phenomenal product given their circumstance. If they had a better TV deal and booked slightly larger venues, they could flirt with the AEW numbers. Wouldn't go that far. They do need to be much more intelligent with some of their marketing, but they made good starts. Spider-Boss says Randy Orton versus Dominic Mysterio would be fun. One, because it's a good match for Randy, and second, because we know Rhea will get involved, which is absolutely correct. Raymond says imagine the pop when Dom gets hit with the RKO. Leon says just curious, was Randy versus Riddle ever on the tables before Riddle's release? No. There was a reason the two of them were paired up together, and having them feud would not fit with that. Zane suggests Randy versus Omos. That'd be a hell of an RKO. You could climb him. Eric says, considering the back issues, I think he will change his finisher, maybe using the punt again instead of the RKO. He has no intention of doing that. The WWE might ask him to do that. He has no intention of doing that. The other Mike says, does this mean Big E is close to returning too? I did mention Big E at the beginning of that, so about 10 minutes ago. By all means, pop back and check it out. KJ says, what's up, Tom? What's up, KJ? Brad says, part of me hopes that Randy changes his finisher for his back. Joey says, Karrion Kross teaming with Sami Callihan on Twitter. Do you know if WWE has any interest in him? There is reported interest via, I believe, PWInsider, but I've not heard anything myself. And Hector says, it sucks that Randy can't go back to the Legend Killer gimmick, considering he's a legend himself. That was my favourite gimmick of his by far. I think it is time for a new Legend Killer, and I think names such as Gunter are well worth a mention. Well worth a mention when it comes to that. Of the younger talents who are coming up, Bron Breakker would also be an amazing Legend Killer. 23 Fresh says, do you think more serious VKM leaks will come out again? I don't know. I don't know what else it could be. Rosar says, if Randy is returning, is he going to be a part-timer and only wrestle in the big shows or be around weekly? He wants to be around weekly. He does have a somewhat limited day contract, so he'll be around most weekly, but he'll be around essentially 8 months of the year. Spider-Boss says, watching Gunter versus Bronson Reed, I remember Big E with the big meaty men slapping meat. Big E versus Gunter would be a hell of a feud. Pardon me. NYC says, Dom new Legend Killer. Good God, no. Good God, no. So we didn't quite hit the 32 likes by 5 past. We have exceeded it now, though. We're on 39 likes at the minute with 64 viewers. One more gets us to 40. Please consider being the one. Camo says, Sub Tom, hope you're doing well tonight. Doing well, thank you, Camo. Welcome to the show. Khalid says, I did enjoy Undertaker and Braun segment. Typically, after a segment like that, the person who took the chokeslam also gets a reward. And Vegeta says, what did I miss? Randy Orton. Spider-Boss says, after her early return, do you think WWE don't want to rush Liv's return? Yes. They pushed her to come back far too early. I reported that at the time. And Bailey says, New Day versus Imperium would be fun. Raymond suggests Rhea as a new Legend Killer, and Ricky got us to 40. Thank you kindly, Ricky. We're now 43. Do more to 45. Let's get to our next piece of news, because our next piece of news is that the Wrestling Observer are reporting that the planned match between Charlotte Flair and Bianca Belair is off the WrestleMania 40 card. Now, they've been building towards this for months. Essentially, since WrestleMania, they've been working towards Charlotte Flair versus Bianca Belair. And bit by bit, they're getting there. The issue is that the Wrestling Observer are now reporting that there's a different match being planned for WrestleMania, that being Charlotte Flair versus Jade Cargill. This would mean essentially that Bianca Belair is being kicked out of her spot for Jade Cargill. I've reported previously Charlotte Flair is trying to make a match between her and Jade Cargill happen. The primary reason for that is she knows to strike while the iron's hot. There's a reason she wanted Ronda. There's a reason she had the first match with her returning Trish Stratus many SummerSlams ago. Charlotte Flair knows who's hot and knows to get into the ring with them. That would be Bianca Belair, but she seems to have been pushed to one side in much the same way that when Ronda Rousey returned, Sasha Banks was pushed to one side as well. Now, this has been reported by Dave Meltzer, and to be entirely blunt, I don't 100% believe it. I simply do not 100% believe that this is going to be happening. I still believe that Bianca Belair will be taking on Charlotte Flair. That said, there are plans in place for Jade Cargill to have a prominent match at WrestleMania. I don't have a name yet, but I'm confident it will be at least a relatively big name. If it is going to be Bayley versus Io Sky, I personally would be leaning towards Asuka getting that nod against Jade Cargill as a relatively big name, but there are also a number of others who could take that spot. Even if we just look at the Raw roster, there could be a Shayna Baszler. There could be a Liv Morgan. There's a number of possibilities I feel, but I would be looking towards Asuka. Charlotte Flair versus Bianca Belair is reportedly off, but I'm going to wait for confirmation on that one. I can see that we have another new member. I didn't see a message pop up. So far, the only message about new members is from Daz, but it does say we have a new member. If that is you, please shout out and let us know. I don't want to miss you. I absolutely do not want to miss someone who's directly benefiting the channel. Thank you kindly, whomever you may be. Very much appreciate it. Let's catch up with the chat. KJ says, Randy, this may sound weird, but someone mentioned Gunter versus Big E. Let's be honest, Gunter would break his hand on Big E's massive chest. I mentioned Gunter versus Big E, and I'd very much like it. Zane says, I want to see Charlotte Flair versus Jade Cargill and win every match they have. I'm not a fan of Jade Cargill. That seems very unlikely. Jade Cargill is on a very fast route to the top, I tell you that. Very fast route. Daniela says, I'd imagine Randy is sad that Riddle was released. Yep, he's not going to get his strain anymore. Won't go into any more detail, but you know what I mean. Adam says, be careful saying his name, Tom. You might receive an RKO. That's true. They do come out of no... Camo says, I do not believe Bianca won't have a prominent position at Mania. I agree with that. Spider-Boss says, it's fun to see Rhea Ripley interacting with the Raw Women's Division now. Fatal 5-Way for the Women's World title is good. She has been interacting with the Women's Division the entire time, but as I mentioned before, there are two Rhea Ripleys. Women's Champion Rhea Ripley, Judgment Day Rhea Ripley. They don't always have both feature. Interestingly, the Women's World Champion Rhea Ripley is a face. The Judgment Day Rhea Ripley is a heel. Much like Chyna when she was a part of DX and also the Intercontinental Champion. Zane, I've not watched a lot of Jade Cargill. I don't watch a lot of AEW. Vijit says the EST should always have a match at Mania. She's certainly getting pushed strongly in that direction. Ashley, welcome, says, when's Kyrie returning? They need to have a storyline ready for her. To my knowledge, she has not officially signed anything as of yet, but it is a very, very close thing. Very close to happening. Spider-Boss says, I think Jade could face Bayley. Despite her current status, Bayley is a big name. Who then would face Io? 23 Fresh says, will Brandy Rhodes ever sign with the WWE? As I reported before Cody Rhodes debuted with the WWE again, there is very little interest from the WWE in Brandy Rhodes at this point in time. And Marcel is here to say, Tom, how are you and the chat? Doing very well, Marcel, welcome. Says, I'll watch back later, still at work. Thank you very much for tuning in. Rosal says, Observer said around this time last year that Rock vs Roman was happening, so I don't believe them. They've done that for the last 3 years, as you know. Eric says, I'd like to see a Bianca Belair streak at Mania. She's already 3-0, and all of her matches were awesome. I thoroughly agree with that. Joey says, is Tegan getting a push now after her match with Becky? If she's appearing regularly on TV, which she is. Pardon me, the answer is yes. Daniela says, Charlotte has a title match tonight. Could Bianca interfere? Yes. Vijit says, Randy versus Gunter sounds great. Yes, it does. Juan Orozco says, hey Tom, how will the crowd react if Punk doesn't show up? They won't. They won't. WWE fans who go to the arenas don't really care about CM Punk anymore. If anything, they're laughing the whole thing off. Eric says, Dave Meltzer's word means nothing. I never believe him, he's a snake oil salesman. Daniela says, hopefully Bianca is back on SmackDown soon. Funny, KJ. Kang says, got my ticket to Royal Rumble in Florida. Any ideas on what could be scheduled? My first live event since the Attitude Era. I can tell you 2 matches that are definitely scheduled for the Royal Rumble. That is the Royal Rumble and the Royal Rumble. That's all I can really tell you right now, unfortunately. Leon says, Kyrie can face Io, which I'm behind. Spider-Boss says much the same. Bailey says, Becky Lynch has done a great job elevating NXT talent. I'm impressed with Lyra Valkyria and interested to see if she moves to the main roster. Raymond says, I'm looking forward to seeing how Jade will adapt to the WWE style. She has great potential. And Spider-Boss says, at this point, do you think WWE doesn't know what to do with Bron Breakker and Roxanne Perez in NXT? I think there are still plenty of ideas for them, but they don't know if they're going to keep them. Sean says, hello, Tom. Hello, Sean. How are you doing? And Roger says, do you think Camille will sign with WWE or AEW when her contract expires? No. About blunt as I can get on that one. Firm no. 4 more likes gets us to 50. If you can hit that thumbs up, please consider doing so. And subscribe if you haven't as well. We have recently hit a new record when it comes to subscribers, as well, of course, as our new record when it comes to views. We are currently sitting at 5,323 subscribers, a great number by any measurement. And we hit a brand new record yesterday, 10,638 views in a single day. Today, the video that's been getting all those views is starting to calm down, so I think, for now, it's over. This, was, of course, was the CM Punk video about returning to the WWE. It is now not only my most viewed video, but my most viewed video by far at 30,853 views. Now, I have worked out what it would take for me to reach full time on YouTube. And it roughly works out as 1 million views per month. 1 million per month. Or, if you break that down into days, 33,000 per day. Hitting 10,000 in one day is getting me really close to that level. And that's before you factor, for example, channel memberships. We've got 2 renewed memberships today. If you've never considered joining the channel, what are you waiting for? It's a great way to support the channel with a little bit extra if you choose to do so. There is a $1 a month option and a $5 a month option for if you'd like to donate a little bit more. You do get access to a bit of exclusive stuff. No exclusive news. All my news is always going to be free, but there's a little bit more behind the scenes as to my process, what I knew when. Bear with me. Sorry for that very random noise there. I didn't quite give myself enough time. But there is plenty, for example, as I mentioned, about... Sorry, I'm a bit plugged up now. About how I work, what my process is, and what I knew when. So I can break down in detail how I do my job, if that's of interest to anyone. So if you've not considered doing so, please consider now checking out the channel membership section. You can also, of course, consider gifting memberships if you're that way inclined, and supporting the channel in a number of financial ways. I don't often ask for that because my hope is that we'll eventually be able to host the channel entirely on ads, but that would require 1 million views a month, so we're nowhere near that. Every little does help, and all the money that I am making from the channel at this point in time goes straight back into the channel. Advertising, growth, and basically anything such as editing software which will help the growth of the channel. Rosal says Brock is missing the Saudi PLE this year. I believe this is the first time. Is it because they felt like they didn't need him or contract related? Both. They've not renewed his contract as of yet because they don't feel they need him. Sean says Force on Judgment Day winning back the tag titles. More on that shortly. Steve says it's a shame they picked the Tropicana field for the Rumble. I know it was a former Thunderdome, but it's kind of a dump. Haven't seen it. Yes, Sean, I did see that Rhea topped the list at the PWI Top 250. Raymond says, I wish I could hit the like button more than once. I appreciate you regardless. We're on 49 now, just the one away. Thank you, NYC, for the happy 10,000. Who said, do you know if WWE is interested in Andrade? Yes. Can they do anything about it? No. NYC shouts a very loud, well done, Tom. Thank you kindly. The other Mike says, listen, I don't know about Monet's contract with AEW. Looks like, but that would be perfect opponent for Jade at WrestleMania 40. It would be. It's not going to happen. Joey says, Miyu Yamashita was spotted in the PC crowd at NXT this week. Do you know if WWE has interest in signing her? I'm not sure on that one, but let me reach out and talk to some people and see what I can find out. Vegeta say Andrade, I'd think, would return to WWE, in my opinion, to be with Charlotte, and Triple H would push him. I don't think it's necessarily got to do with his partner, and more to do with what he might think is best for his career. Ada says, do you think Jade should be a heel? I don't think she should be anything right now. Thank you very kindly, Leon, for a new channel supporter level. Thank you very kindly for that. As I say, it's just the $1 and it does give you access to some behind the scenes stuff. I will be creating more behind the scenes stuff. There's not too much at the moment, but there is more coming, I promise. When we have a certain level of channel memberships, we will start to do member-only Q&As. And if we do get too busy with the chat in these live shows, there will be moments when we have to change to members-only chat. If we do get too busy, I don't want to have to do that per se, but sometimes if we're absolutely flying in chat and there's too much happening, I might have no choice. Bismo says, good evening, Tom. Hope all is well. Thanks for doing this for us all. We're very appreciative for everything you do. Thank you very kindly, Bismo. I appreciate that. Thank you, MIC. Thank you, KJ. Says, bless you in the chat, Gable voice. Spider-Boss says, I wonder who will face Hikaru Shida at Full Gear. Jordan says, great to see how far your channel has grown, mate. I'm thrilled with how the channel is doing. One of the reasons we've got so many views at the moment is because we did sort of rocket up to that 5,000 subscribers, spent a little bit of money on YouTube advertising, and it is paying off. I'm thrilled with the results. We were dreaming when I said we want to get to 5,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and here we are. Spider-Boss says, do you see Jay White winning the AEW title at Full Gear? Nope. Wiggly is here, just says hello, no yo. Says, what do you make of Sting's retirement announcement? Well overdue. One says, bless you, Tom. Hope Mercedes Moné debuts at Full Gear. Joey says, do you know what the plans are for the tag titles? More on that shortly. Sean says, Bianca was third and fans got upset, said she should have been number one because she had a better year. Not than Rhea Ripley. Roger says, will you be watching Crown Jewel? Nope. Vegeta says, Year of the Judgment Day, a report that I made over a year ago. Wiggly says, Tom, I must ask as I have before, did WWE generally have any interest in ever signing Hikaru Shida? That's it. Adam says, hey Tom, do you ever see Bronson Reed receiving a push to a world title? Dad says, who's your top on Mount Rushmore, Tom? Could be any. It's always been Triple H. I think you all know by now Triple H is my guy. Boss Pedal says, Miyu Yamashita was sitting next to the owner of Spark Joshi, who she was working a show for the night before. Then the day after posted training videos of Natalia, which they've done once before. I do know she's a WWE/John Cena fan, as she signs Never Give Up with all of her autographs and uses the attitude adjustment move. I saw Miyu Yamashita wrestle quite recently, in fact. I don't know if there's going to be a rematch. Bismo, we'll see shortly. And Wiggly says, Britt Baker will get the title back again in the near future. I see her as the biggest female star in AEW. Riyadh says, hey Tom, hope you're doing good. Doing pretty good, thank you. JY is my favourite right now. KJ, Triple H is my favourite of all time. Welcome to the show, noob. Spider-Boss says, I think the Judgment Day the only ones who get an immediate rematch after they lose their titles. Heels typically do. So, more news. And this one does continue with the Meltzer report. So Meltzer has been saying what is likely to happen at WrestleMania, hence the report on Bianca Belair out from her match against Charlotte Flair and being replaced by Jade Cargill. He's also reported that The Rock might appear at WrestleMania. This time, every year, we hear about The Rock appearing at WrestleMania. And funnily enough, we always hear about The Rock appearing at WrestleMania from the same person, Dave Meltzer of Wrestling Observer. A couple of months later, what do we hear? Oh, wait. The Rock's not coming at WrestleMania. Now, essentially, the report is that The Rock might be open to it. If he says he wants to, the WWE might decide to. But the WWE at the moment are full steam ahead for Cody Rhodes, and they are not planning to deviate. I've said this so many times, but I'll repeat it again. There are currently no plans for The Rock to feature at WrestleMania. I gotta be honest, I might do a video on the Wrestling Observer's use of The Rock name for one of my Sunday, in fact that's a great idea, for one of my Sunday videos. WON versus The Rock. I'm going to write that down and I'm going to use it at some point because this is egregious. Also in the news, NXT is on the up. The ratings have dropped since the moment when The Undertaker chokeslammed Bron Breakker, but they have not dropped far. NXT continue to do very good numbers, regularly beating AEW Dynamite at this point in time, even though they're not in direct competition. The plan is still very much to have a number of top-level names from the main roster making appearances. Becky Lynch will be there for a while. Judgment Day will be there for a while. And there is an intention to use NXT as a platform to build towards Becky Lynch versus Rhea Ripley going forwards. It seems likely that Rhea Ripley may end up getting the Jade Cargill match, and Becky Lynch might hold the NXT Championship up until WrestleMania and beyond. That's being discussed at this point for the future after WrestleMania. The Becky Lynch versus Rhea Ripley might be two on side, so that Becky Lynch can defend the NXT Championship while Rhea Ripley could face Jade Cargill. So a number of different options being mentioned, but they have still not got the promise of the TV deal that they're looking for with NXT. They're not finished. More is to come as regards making this happen. Razar says, who do you want to win the Rumble matches next year? I want Solo Sikoa, and I think I want Bayley, personally. Wiggly says, was hoping to go up to Liverpool tomorrow and see Mick Foley. Alas, not well, so won't be. Sorry to hear that, mate. NYC says, since fake news, Jey Uso suspended by the Sports Entertainer. We got to remember this stuff. Boss Pedal says, I forgot you saw Miyu at Pro Wrestling Eve. Very talented in the ring, but I personally don't see her as a great fit for WWE. More Saray than Asuka. I get what you're saying. Wiggly says, rumours of The Rock appearing at WrestleMania? Wow, that's shocking news. We have a lot of shocking news coming, including secret reports about the main event of Crown Jewel. You will never believe it. Riyadh says, I love LA Knight, but I'm not interested in the match versus Roman because it's in Saudi and there's a 0% chance Knight actually wins. As you guys know, I will not be watching because it's in Saudi Arabia. Bismo says, Meltzer looking for clicks. NYC says The Rock is the new Santa Claus, comes every year. Raymond says The Rock at WrestleMania? Where have I heard that before? Brad says every damn year we hear this from Meltzer. Eric says, can Dave Meltzer stick to one story when it comes to The Rock and WrestleMania? He does. It's the same story every year. Razar says our yearly Rock is returning rumour seems like it's not as much this year, even though he literally appeared on SmackDown a month ago, which is surprising. Yeah, give it time. One says Dave Meltzer also said WWE would absolutely take Mercedes money back if she chooses to, and they would. I've reported that for a long time. Code says, hi Tom, hope you're well. What would your ideal teams be for War Games this year, both men and women? Oof. So for the men, I have Roman, Solo and Jimmy. Sammy, Jay and Cody. And then I've run out of fingers. Dominic, Damian and Finn. Free on free on free. For the women, I'm not sure yet. I imagine it has something to do with damage control and some variation thereof. Code says, hi Tom, hope you're well. I've already read that one. Riyadh says, actually Tom, I think that The Rock's brother, the Pebble, will be at WrestleMania. Dad says, who do you think Sting will face in his retirement match? I don't know, really. Noob says, any plans for Kairi Sane for a WWE return? They're making plans as we speak, but at the moment, to my knowledge, she's not quite ready. No update on the Raw TV rights deal just yet, Ashley. I'm still waiting for more information. They're hoping to get quite a significant increase, but they're not getting the offers that they're looking for. One says, Dave Meltzer always comes up with stuff and calls it breaking news. Absolutely not true. Dave Meltzer tends to share his opinion and then other people call it breaking news. The other Mike says, there are a ton of women's matchups that can happen. A great problem to have. Spider-Boss says, more of the Judgment Day in NXT, so Dominic Mysterio will be champion at least until next year. I wouldn't go that far. Adam says, hey Tom, DC Cody versus Reigns at WrestleMania 40 because it's been a hot topic and they had a face-off on SmackDown. As I've said earlier, they are full steam ahead with that. Vegeta says, I'm tired of hearing about The Rock. Boss Pedal says, the great thing about reporting The Rock at WrestleMania rumour is you get to post multiple articles and podcasts about it, whether it's true or not. Classic clickbait. I will be going into more detail on this one. I'm pretty confident it's very much worth one of my Sunday videos. Bismo says it'll be Meltzer versus Roman at WrestleMania 40 before it's The Rock versus Roman. Joey says, do you know if Roman will be working War Games? I do not. No, Riyadh, I've heard nothing on Sami Callihan. Roger says, will we see Odyssey Jones on Raw anytime soon? Nope. I'm not aware of there ever being any plan for Odyssey Jones. Not aware of there ever being any plan. Logan Paul will be appearing tonight on SmackDown, and it seems likely that Logan Paul will be appearing to challenge Rey Mysterio for the United States Championship and likely picking up the win in Saudi Arabia. There is a reason for this. There's a number of reasons for this, but Logan Paul has an individual deal with Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia offer Logan Paul money to make appearances and offer the WWE money with which they pay Logan Paul to make appearances. So Logan Paul gets a double payday when he appears on Saudi Arabia soil. So he's making a point of appearing there and will be involved in a number of different things beyond just the WWE. So Logan Paul likely to face Rey Mysterio because Saudi Arabia are going to pay him twice. There's been huge praise backstage for the work of two wrestlers, in particular those being Gunther and Rhea Ripley. They are leading the way on WWE Raw right now, and the WWE, particularly Triple H, has been extremely complimentary about both of them. They are earning rave reviews. I know this won't surprise everyone, but I'm always very happy to report something like this. Rave reviews for Gunther, rave reviews for Rhea Ripley. They don't look to be going anywhere anytime soon. Chris says, I've said this about Meltzer in the past. He's a great historian for wrestling, but he's not a great reporter. Spider-Boss says, imagine Roman versus Cody at WrestleMania 14. Ava Raine gets involved helping Roman to retain. Why? Why would that be? Nobody would know who she is. Wiggly says, WrestleMania dispelled a long-running rumour. Michael Cole and Andy Cole are not related. Okay. Sean says, I'd rather Santos or LA Knight had the US title. They deserve it more, in my opinion. LA Knight versus Logan Paul for WrestleMania. Joey says they're still planning on doing AJ versus Roman. Seems to have cooled off primarily because of the heat behind LA Knight right now. It looks like he's had the nod instead. Eddie says Triple H will try everything to get Ospreay next year. Yes, likely he will fail. Razar says Roman isn't advertised at all for Survivor Series. Is he not going to be there? Took a long time for Roman to be advertised for Crown Jewel. As I reported, he was always going to be there. Bismo says should send Odyssey back to NXT. There's no plans to use him on Raw. There are also no plans to use him on NXT. No, Riyadh, I have not. Roger says, who is one women's and men's wrestler you would sign for WWE that aren't currently involved? Okay, Jay White, Mercedes Money. It was easy. King Azza says, do you see Solo turning on Roman at WrestleMania to help Cody win? No. And Juan Orozco says, according to Dave Meltzer, he said that the AEW TV deal faces a big negative because of NASCAR and NBA. Interesting. He is usually a pretty reliable source when it comes to that sort of stuff. Code says, I like that men's team. For the women, I would want Charlotte, Bianca, Asuka, Zelina Shotzi versus Damage Control, Alba Isla, and a returning Kairi. Hopefully set up a feud between Asuka and Kairi. Good teams. I like what you're going for there. Good teams. Jey Uso and Cody Rhodes might have lost their tag team championships, but the team up is not done yet. Cody Rhodes is being set up with Jey Uso to travel together and essentially prepare Jey Uso for the main event scene proper, working with media and the like. Roman Reigns historically not the most friendly with the media by plan. That's the character, not necessarily the man himself. He's actually very amicable as a person and an individual in my experience. But when it comes to Cody Rhodes, he is a number one guy when it comes to public relations as a WWE wrestler. They want Jey Uso to get to that level. That's why they've been paired up. That combination will continue. Seth Rollins will not be main eventing Crown Jewel. And I know a lot of you thought he would be. None of you thought he would be. I know that none of you thought he would be. But he's not. Because I've got some massive news today. News that you cannot possibly imagine. News that you cannot possibly know. The biggest, you might say, it is the biggest exclusive you will hear anywhere about anything wrestling related. You are not ready for this. Roman Reigns is going to main event Crown Jewel. What do you make of that? Biggest news ever. I told you, we only do the tippity top of news here on Spoiler Warning. Roman Reigns and LA Knight will main event in Saudi Arabia. LA Knight will main event a WWE pay-per-view for the first time, hopefully not for the last. No, he's not planned to win. Adam says, Tom, who are your picks for Money in the Bank next year? Far too far away. Far too far away. KJ says, speaking of AJ versus Roman, is it possible it's been held off after being teased due to Luke Gallows being injured? Reported by Fightful he was hurt. It's possible, yes. I think they just went with LA Knight myself. Roger would sign Tessa Blanchard. I wouldn't. Spider-Boss says, Meltzer never learns. He's constant. The Rock is coming back and his hate towards CM Punk never change. Sean says, who else in WWE would do media besides The Miz and Cody? Lots of people do media. Cesaro, for example, is a great person to interview. Really fun. But no, they're the big ones. King Azza says, how do they do Cody over to SmackDown without winning the Royal Rumble? They don't. He doesn't have to go to SmackDown. Roman could just be very eager. KJ says, Seth Rollins not main events in Saudi? No way. For once, I don't believe you, Tom. You're wrong, bro. Stop. I quit. For those who don't know, KJ tends to send me reports from other people who confirm what I've already reported. It's really quite fun, and I really do appreciate it. Because it's just nice every now and then to be reminded that sometimes I'm just very good at this job. Very good at this. Wiggly says, WrestleMania confirmed that despite the name of the event, there isn't actually any money in the bank. Wow, that might be why they're cutting people. Bismo says, Tom knows his wrestling scoop and his love of cherry coke. Bailey says, at the age of 44, CM Punk has few in-ring options. Would WWE entertain signing him for a Legends deal? No. Spider-Boss says, Paul Heyman recently said on a WWE social media post, if you're sick that Roman Reigns wins, you're going to be sicker. That is what Paul Heyman said, and it's absolutely true. Code says, I'd not mind seeing more Cody J press conferences. That was amazing. NYC says, are you doing a watch party? For Saudi Arabia, absolutely not. For SmackDown tonight, and unfortunately I have to break some bad news, I'm not doing a SmackDown watch party tonight. I'm a little drained at the moment. I'm a little bit burned out. I'm going to get some rest. I realise this is quite late in the day. I've been going through this and seeing how I feel. I'm just a little bit drained and a little bit tired. I'm going to take this one off, get myself an early night, and come back to you guys with a video on Sunday. So apologies, but I'm not going to be doing a SmackDown watch party tonight. Just a bit drained. Sunday's video, though, the next time you'll see me, is going to be about the WWE using the CM Punk name and the CM Punk rumours to sell tickets to Survivor Series with no intention of bringing in CM Punk. As usual, the Sunday video will have plenty of evidence to support it, plenty of different sources as well. I've already started my research. It will be how WWE is using the CM Punk name to sell tickets for Survivor Series. The dude says, I'm disappointed. Tom always prides himself on not spreading misinformation, but here he is saying Roman Reigns is main eventing a pay-per-view. Unbelievable. KJ says, sorry, I meant to say maybe they do OC versus Bloodline in the build to a possible Roman versus AJ match, but Gallows is hurt. Just an opinion, and you're entitled to that opinion. I personally just think it went the other way. Thank you guys, appreciate that. Wiggly saying get well soon. Vapecart saying get rest. NYC saying hope all is good. Brad saying similar. All good, Tom. Take care of yourself. Appreciate that, guys. Like I said, I'm just a little bit drained. Staying up till 3 a.m. every week, it's not the best thing in the world. And every now and then, I think I do just need to have a little refresh. So I'm just going to take this week off and come back next week. Spider-Boss said, at this point, does WWE plan to rebuild the tag team division? They keep planning for it. It keeps not happening. Sorry to hear that, Wiggly. King Azza says, do you see Gunter retaining at WrestleMania? That's 6 months away, mate. Might not have the title by then. Sean said Survivor Series was selling well before Punk was released. Yes, it was, and WWE is still using it. As I say, there'll be plenty of evidence to support it. Code says the USA Network social media team is trolling everyone, and I love it. Can't wait to see the disappointment when no Punk appears. And Dad says, get well soon, Tom, as well. Boss Pedal says, being a UK wrestling fan is suffering. Get your sleep, sir. Thank you kindly. And JJ says, hey, Tom, I know a few of the superstars' contract is coming up. Does any of them re-sign already? A lot of people have re-signed, but not necessarily the ones that you're thinking of. Steve said, "It says back okay." Yeah. We are going to wrap it up there. We've been live for 50 minutes. We've discussed plenty of wrestling news. We peaked at, I believe that was 74 viewers, and we're going to call it there. I just want to say a massive thank you to all of you who've joined me tonight. We will be back on Sunday for another one of the wrestling media breakdown videos. I hope to see as many of you there as we can, but until then, I've been Tom Colohue. You've been fantastic, and I'll see you all very soon.